Hi, this is a vidcast for people who have decided to organise a one book, one community event, but maybe would like some tips about what works and what doesn't work, and how can you make a really successful one book, one community event in your town, city or region. My name's Danielle Fuller and I'm an academic who works at the University of Birmingham in the United Kingdom, and this is my research partner.
My name is DeNal Rehberg Sedo and I work at Mount St. Vincent University in Halifax, Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada.
And what we're going to say is based on an academic research project called Beyond the Book, in which we investigated a series of what we call mass reading events. The main model that we looked at was one book, one community. So these are tips that we've gleaned from the organisers of the events we observed, and indeed events that we participated in ourselves, and from an extensive range of interviews that we conducted with readers who do and don't participate in these events. So we hope that among the things we're going to say will be some really practical things that you can take into the planning, organisation and delivery of your event. Danielle, why do you think visibility is really key to the success of one book, one community events?
I think visibility needs to be consistent and creative. In the noise of so many events going on in different cities, one book, one community programs really need to make a splash. And I don't mean spending a lot of money, but perhaps in various different places, in print and in digital environments, and in broadcast, meaning newspapers, online, and on radio and TV. If you can engage in different media and do it in a way that highlights the uniqueness of your programming event, I think that that's the first step to get the word out there. Because as our research found, the main reason that readers don't involve themselves in one book, one community programming is that they didn't know about it.
Yeah, so we can't emphasize that enough, really. If you can get local media on your side, and also local personalities, whether that's the mayor or a sports hero or a teacher who's important in your community, and get them to help you promote it, both to their immediate constituencies, but also even if they're prepared to go on local radio, appear on local television, do an interview on your website. These things can really make a difference. Other successful examples we've seen of branding and marketing have involved street banners, reading guides, posters, posters that even made it into supermarkets, for example, not just the places that are normally associated with books and reading.
Yeah.
So really, the more creative you can be with branding and marketing, the better.
Non-traditional renegade type of advertising, for sure. Another key important, and I think in some ways the most important to the readers that we spoke with, is that books need to be accessible. In particular, books need to be made available free.
Yeah, in some of the communities that we visited, the ones which were really most successfully at reaching the most diverse demographic of audience were those organizations which could give away free books. Now this could range from 100 free books to 5,000 free books. It really depends on the kind of sponsorship and backing, or even brokerships that you've managed to do with the publisher of the selected book. But free books really are huge. Also, where you give away those free books can have an impact, whether that's through schools or it's through bookshops or libraries. Again, it's about putting them in accessible places that many people will feel comfortable going to and asking for the book.
I think it's important too. Accessibility also means the language that the books are published in. In particular, if you live in a city where there are diverse audiences or diverse readers, you need to ask publishers for ideas about books in other languages, or at least accessibility of books in other languages, and books in Braille for people who might not have strong vision. There's also, I think that people need to think about different genres and formats of books. When we talk about accessibility, we're not talking only about the book as able to have the book, but also books such as graphic novels, books that might be attractive to other non-traditional kinds of readers that we think of.
So really it's a question of genre, but also a question of language, and recognizing, for instance, that has the book that you're thinking of selected been published in other languages, whether that's Chinese, Spanish, French, or any other languages that are spoken in your community, the more available the book can be to as many people, probably the more successful your program will be.
I think, you know, another thing that's really important from what we've seen of the successful programming or the successful programs is that the author is living, and that works into the creative promotion. Usually, the author can be a celebrity and can help the organizers promote the event.
Yeah, there's although many successful programs have run using authors who are no longer alive, probably the most popular ones, the ones that really got people involved a living author coming to the community for a number of days, doing press and media interviews, but also a series of events where readers and people maybe who haven't read the book got a chance to talk to that person, to hear something about how it was written, to hear about the things that inspired them and the ideas in the book.
What do you think? Speaking of that, what do you think are some of the more successful events that we were involved in?
I would say that outside of events which involved author discussions, which were always a huge hit with readers, and we saw people who had fantastic questions to ask in Q&As, but who also really enjoyed hearing about the inspiration behind a book. In addition to those, some of the more unusual things that maybe didn't involve people needing to have read the book, or indeed you didn't even have to be able to read to get involved. For instance, projects where children made art based on an idea from the book. Other projects which involved, for instance, a walking tour of the city which tied into places featured in a novel. Kind of fun competitions as well, whether that's writing or music. Things which kind of spin off from a book often seem to attract people who maybe aren't great readers themselves or who haven't got time to read the book but want to be involved.
Again, it really comes back to the accessibility of a book. And one of the things that I think that was really key in all of the different areas that we visited in the 3 different countries was the idea of involving schools. Schools are very important if organizers can get both primary level and secondary level, and even at the university level. If you can get schools involved, you're reaching out in a way that, and you're reaching creative ideas too, because usually teachers and librarians and event organizers really work well together, don't they?
Yes, and I think it's good if schools can be involved in dynamic ways, whether that's through competitions like you mentioned before, or whether the students can be invited to meet the author in person and actually do something in an interactive way with them. That's quite meaningful for students, especially high school students. And I guess in a sense that brings us on to perhaps our last point, which is the importance of partnerships to the success of the best one-but-one communities, where multiple agencies are involved. So maybe, DeNal, you could say something about the different kinds of partnerships that we've seen across the research that we've done.
We've seen, I mean, there's the old adage of together we are wise, and it really works well in all the 3 different countries, doesn't it? We've got people at the library level who are working with booksellers, who have on their advisory committees publishers or representatives from local school boards. We've got, and as you mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's very important to get promotional media on board, such as newspapers or perhaps online news portals, and I would encourage you to involve people like in different areas, people from the city councils, people who are policymakers in your city, so that they can see the good work that's being done. I would also include top decision makers in various corporations who might be able to help out with the funding, because none of this is done for free. I think there's really no end to the different kinds of partnerships that can come around the table and sit to create a very successful reading program.
Yeah, so I guess we'd end up by saying that these are all it's just some of the things that you need to think about if you are planning a One Book One community event. It is quite an easy sell to government agencies, local and national, if you're seeking funding, and indeed to corporations who want to sponsor events which are focusing on community bonding, cultural literacy, and are trying to bring people together around a chosen book. So really, in this sense, any partnership is possible, and getting people on board is essential to making it work. Good luck.